Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 4th January 2018. The first issue is regarding the unrest in Pune, Maharashtra, which has resulted in violence in many parts of the states. It all started when a group of Mahars, who are considered Dalits in Maharashtra, gathered at Bhima Koregaon to celebrate the victory of the war which took place in 1818, which led to the defeat of Peshwa Bajirao II by the British. There are various views expressed by different communities over the war, and that is the reason for the whole unrest. Some see it as a war between the Dalit Mahar community and the Brahminical Peshwas, when it was the war led by imperialist British against the local Peshwas. In this regard, a point to be noted is the War of 1818 was not between the Dalit and Brahmins, but the British used the Mahars for their advantage. The Mahars saw it more of a employment rather than venting out their anger against the Brahmin community. But this was tweaked by a few Dalit leaders to mobilize support for the cause of Dalits. But now, given the widespread unemployment and the lack of educational opportunities of the Maratha youth, the society has been polarized by various right wing organizations, thereby resulting in the violence. What is important to us from the examination point of view is the historical significance and the events which led to the conflict of 1818 and not the political bickering over the issue. So I kindly request you to go through the relevant chapters on the said event. With that, let's move on to the next issue news, which is regarding the disagreement between different ministries over the use of CAMPA funds. As we know, the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act establishes a National Compensatory Afforestation Fund and a State Compensatory Afforestation Fund under the Public Account of India and the Public Account of each state respectively. These funds will receive payments for compensatory afforestation activities based on the net present value of the forest. The National Fund will receive 10% of these funds, while the state funds will receive 90% of it. The funds which are collected for the diversion of forest lands will be primarily spent on afforestation activities, regeneration of forest ecosystem, wildlife protection, and infrastructure development. The issue now is regarding the utilization of these CAMPA funds and the differences between the Environment Ministry and the Finance Ministry. Currently, the states are able to access these funds through an ad hoc mechanism where the center disburses the funds to the states on a needs basis. But the issue is there is no enough verification done so that the given money to the states are used for purposes specific to regenerating the forests, which is the basic aim of the CAMPA Act. In this regard, the Finance Ministry says that the fund should be routed through the Consolidated Fund of India, which is not the present scenario as it is routed through the Public Account of India. The difference in both the methods is any disbursal out of the Consolidated Fund of India needs the approval of the Parliament but doesn't require parliamentary authorization for funds routed out of the Public Account of India. Given the reducing forest ecosystem and increasing man-animal conflict as a result of it, forest regeneration activities have to be given utmost importance, and the said act is very important to us from the examination point of view. With that being said, let's move on to the next issue news, which is regarding the revised concessions for port development under the public-private partnership model. Under the revised model, the land rent for the ports has been reduced from 200% to 120%, and the royalty which was to be paid by the concessionaire would be indexed to the wholesale price index, thereby replacing the current procedure of charging royalty based on the gross revenue of the port. The move is aimed at making investment in the port sector easy and more investor friendly. The next issue in news is regarding the recent comments made by the US President on Pakistan's support to terrorist groups. And the editorial today is talking about the effectiveness of the threats of US and the implications of these developments on India. As we saw yesterday, US President Mr. Donald Trump accused Pakistan of lying and fooling US leadership about its actions on terrorism. In this regard, the US government has decided to cut the annual outlay of subsidies given to Pakistan from $255 million to $100 million. However, this reduction in funds may not be alarming for the Pakistani government because they have an alternative in China whose economic engagements with Pakistan has increased, particularly with the ambitious China-Pakistan economic corridor, where China has pledged more than $100 billion in loans. Therefore, in order to pressurize Pakistan to act on terrorists, the US will have to consider stronger measures like stopping all funding, sanctions, cancelling Pakistan's major non-NATO ally status, etc. In this regard, any attempt to prove Pakistan's involvement in terrorism is a positive development from the Indian perspective. But the American statements and threats are basically aimed at Pakistan's support to terror groups that threaten stability in Afghanistan, and the groups which threaten India are not the immediate priority of the US. In that regard, we have to keep in mind that the US Pakistan relationship has seen many ups and downs since the Cold War era, and we should be cautious not to be entangled in the equation between the United States and Pakistan. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the recent debate in the Lok Sabha over making Hindi as the official language at the UN, that is the United Nations. In this regard, the various challenges highlighted were: firstly, for the adoption of Hindi as official language, a majority of the members of the United Nations General Assembly have to vote and also contribute towards the financial cost due to the adoption of a new language. Also, economically weaker countries may not support India in this regard. With that, let's move on to the other issues in news. The first one being the recent reopening of the border hotline between South Korea and North Korea, thereby showing the intent for talks between the two countries. The move follows US President Donald Trump's warning to North Korea about its nuclear capabilities. For further details on the issue and the role of countries like US and China in the region, please go back and watch my previous news analysis video on 5th of December 2017. The final issue in news today is regarding the stopping of road construction activity in Arunachal Pradesh by individuals claiming to be Chinese civilians. The said area is on the Indian side of the line of actual control, thereby raising doubts over Chinese intentions in the region, given the background that China till today does not recognize that Arunachal Pradesh is a part of India. With that, I wrap up today's news analysis. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.